So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start by welcoming everyone here, and especially our guest tonight, Ruppert Jones. Now, a lot of you guys are from the Pacific Northwest and remember Ruppert as a Mariner, and his book has him shows him in his Mariner uniform. He was the first person selected in the expansion draft by the Mariners, right when they were starting out there. And I think I'm gonna skip over a lot of stuff because I think we're gonna get to it later with stuff there. But he played he started off with Kansas City, and then he was selected by the M's, and he also played for the Padres and the Yankees and the Tigers throughout his career. He made 2 All-Star appearances. He had a very brief part of the Tigers 1984 World Series win there as well. I think, if there's one thing that boggles my mind here, so we did a little work on baseball baseball info, and the part where they talk about players of similar players. The similar batters to him, the people that had the most hits were Josh Reddick and Carlos Gomez. But when they talk about the most similar players per age 22, the most similar batter to Rupp was Willie Mays. Okay, so that's pretty good company. He came to our attention here because of this book, which has just recently been published, and I see a couple of us have picked it up. And I'm sure that being here with him today will spur a lot of you, because it's a good read, will spur a lot of other people to pick it up and read it. And I'm going to, without further ado, then I'm going to turn the thing over to Mr. Jones and have him tell us what he wants to tell us about his life and his baseball career.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very good introduction there. My name and Willie Mays' name was in the same breath.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, you said it now. Don't tell people I said it.
Yeah. Most similar player to you at age 22 was some guy named Willie Mays. When I met my wife in 1997, I didn't tell her I played baseball or I was a baseball player. Never told her. After a little while, I told her, that I was a baseball player, of course. The story's in the book if you read the book, so or if you haven't read the book, the story's in the book. But I told her, I said, somebody ever asked you who's the greatest player that ever played baseball? I said, you just say Willie Mays. They're gonna think you know what you're talking about. And I said, if they ever ask you who the greatest hitter in baseball, you just say Hank Aaron. They'll think you know what you're talking about. And those are 2 icons to me that basically, that's how I look at those 2 gentlemen. Willie was the best player to ever play, and I think Hammer was the best hitter to ever hit, hands down. If you look at the record book, you see Aaron all over it. Aaron, 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 Aaron. Period. You see great players, they say 5 tools. That's because of Willie. Willie was 5 tools. Now, Willie may have hit more home runs if he hadn't played in Candlestick. Have you guys ever been to Candlestick Park?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the ball go out of the ballpark in the left field and the wind blow it back in?
Oh.
The wind actually blows the ball back into the ballpark if hit the ball over the left field fence. And Willie had a lot of home runs that got blown back into the ballpark. My book is special to me. It caps off my life. It caps off the last 40 years of my life that were a bit of a struggle. My book helped me understand what actually happened to me and why I dealt with the things that I was dealing with for the last 40 years. As you know, back in 1980, traumatic brain injury was not something that we talked about on a daily basis, or it's something that we looked at. We just say guy had a concussion or he got his bell rung. Well, there's a lot into that. And I found out firsthand, there's more to it. A lot of things were happening to me over the course of that 40-year period that was unexplainable to me. It took me 10 years to really all of a sudden come to grips with, hey, something's wrong. So I started looking for answers. And on my journey for looking for answers, I became a better person. I became a better man. I was doing things to get better, but I didn't know that I was doing the things to get better. I've always worked out, but I continue to work out. I started reading more. I was never a reader, but I started reading more. I started using my mind more. I was reading 4 books a month. And for me, that's like reading 20. For some, that's like reading 20 books. I was reading 4 books a month. I was trying to educate myself on some issues, but I was always going in the wrong direction. I was never in the right direction. And it took me 30 years to get in the right direction. I started writing that book 2 years after I discovered what happened to me. So when I started writing the book, I started in my career. And then I said, no, I got to go back further than that. So I went back all the way till I was a kid in Tyler, Texas. And I started the book when I was a kid in Tyler, Texas. And I tried to do a chronological order of events that led up to, that continue to be who I am today. That book is, I was as honest as I could be in that book. When you read the book, you're gonna see, did he say that? Did he really tell me that? Yes, I did. I wrote it. Okay. And all the things that I wrote, it really helped me develop even more. Like Bob says, when you got issues, psychological issues, you got mental issues. Anytime you can get battles, you win battles. It gives you, it feeds hope. It feeds faith into into your life, because you're gonna struggle. We struggle. We have to learn how to deal with our struggles, and that was a part that was tough for me. I struggled initially, but I didn't know how to deal with it, so I was just destructive. I was self-destructive because I didn't know how to deal with it. But as I came to a realization that, hey, this has to stop, that's when I started being more accountable. And then I was able to make adjustments. I was able to get a better understanding, or I was able to control, have a little bit more self-control. And I understood the distractions and what the distractions were, and how the certain distractions that I had affected my behavior, and more importantly, it affected the people around me. In this book, I tell it all: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not necessarily in that order, but the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's also the great. That book is the great. That book is the byproduct of all of that I experienced in life. My experience. Gentlemen, you got to read the book. Don't buy it if you're not going to read it. A lot of people read the book and they tell me it's a good read. And some of them can't put it down. I got people who've been knowing me for 30 years. And they tell me, I didn't know you dealt with that. I didn't know you dealt with that. I didn't know that this is what you was experiencing. How do you tell people you're struggling emotionally and you have issues 30 years ago, you couldn't tell nobody that. You know, today you can maybe, but 30 years ago, you can't tell people that. People don't want to hear that. So, and you learn to kind of like try to hide it, mask it. You got some of the greatest people of all time who had some mental issues. Robin Williams. Okay, great man. He had his own struggles. He had his own demons. John Belushi. You know, I'm not saying they had head injuries, but I'm just saying they had issues, mental issues. And sometimes people are ashamed, but it's the people who get help. It's the people who get help and who seek help. They're the ones who have a better chance of dealing with it. Any questions?
Yeah, Ruppert, has when the name of your book's Never Give Up, and it really is true. When I was reading through this, it struck me how dogged you were in continuing to work through your issues and not giving up there. And it doesn't, there's not like a big thunderclap there. It shows through the rest of through the book that you continued to do that. Has anyone, and you know, it's remarkable, but as it happens, and this is purely by chance, today is what the 41st anniversary of the day that Ruppert hit the outfield wall in Oakland and suffered his brain injury there. Today's the anniversary, August 25th.
August 25th.
Yeah. Has anyone ever from like the Major League Players Association reached out to you in any way about this?
No, they haven't. I didn't do this to get their attention. I did this to help someone, help people. And a lot of people have contacted me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and they have told me. As a matter of fact, a guy I played golf with for years, he bought the book. He read it. He called me up the same day. He said, I got the book. I read it, 75 pages, and I experienced some of the things that you experienced. I had 10 concussions growing up, and I experienced some of the things you experienced. And some of the things that you said, I understand. There's a guy named Jeff Huxford. He wrote a book, The New Normal. I have it here somewhere. His name is Jeff Huxford. He's an MD out of Tennessee. He wrote a book, Finding the New Normal. He read my book, and he got in contact with me on Twitter. And he said, I read your book. He said, it was a great read, and I resonated with it because I had a brain injury. I had a brain injury that was they call a closed head injury, which is the kind that we don't necessarily know what's going on inside because there's no outward, there's nothing outwardly that was signify something is happening. But inwardly, the individual experiences it. Now, the kind of person who has an open head injury, we know he might have some issues. So he's right away given a certain attention because of the fact that there's a great chance that he might have some head some issues. But a person with a closed head injury, it just doesn't get the attention. So Jeff read my book and he really enjoyed it, and that made me feel good too.
Ruppert, in your book, you talk about how after your injury, you don't recall that moment, and then years later, you saw the article that talks about the collision with the wall, and it talks about how Lou Piniella, your left fielder, was one of the first people to find, to reach you once you'd collided with the wall. And those of us in the Northwest here are familiar with Lou as a manager primarily. Can you talk a little bit about Lou Piniella as a teammate and whether when you were teammates with him, you saw a future manager?
Well, Louis P was, we used to call him Louis P. Louis P was he was a smart baseball player. Okay, he was a smart baseball player. He was intelligent. He was intense too. Lou was, you know, the way he managed, he played the same way. He was intense. Oh man, you should see him sometime. He would get he get volatile, but that's who he is, and that's what made him who he was. Him being a great manager, I can see that because he was the kind of player. You know, he was one of those players that could have, you know, didn't play every day, but played a lot. So he understood the game from both perspectives. And see, a lot of people don't understand that. Not many great players are managers or successful managers, I put it. They might have managed, but they're not great successful managers. A lot of players who are good players, but not great, becomes good managers because they understand the makeup of full-time player, the part-time player, and they understand the dynamics of getting everybody on the same page and taking advantage of all the player skills. And Lou was smart enough to know that. It's funny that you know, you read that, huh? Well, I didn't know that until I read Gene Monahan's a couple of articles, 2012. That's when I really, first time I knew that. I didn't know that what Lou said. I didn't know what Bobby Mercer said. I was never told. My wife found the article that Gene Monahan did. Gene Monahan, the trainer for the Yankees, he was a trainer for over close to 40 years when he retired. And they asked him on in an interview, what was the worst injury you ever had to attend to? He said right away, Ruppert Jones. He said, Ruppert Jones.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
I got Chrissy here. I don't know what she wants, but I don't want it. Okay. Where was I? Oh, Gene Monahan said that I was the worst injury he ever had to attend to. He said, you know, you're trained for these kind of moments, but until it really happens. And then he went on to say that they had to get me to breathe again. I had stopped breathing. I literally stopped breathing, he said, and they had to get me breathing again before they could get me off the field. And it was ironic that he said that because I told my wife when I met her, I think it was the only time I really talked about the incident, but I said, you know, I think I died that night. It's the only time I ever brought that up. And that was like, what, 17, 18 years later. And when he said that I had stopped breathing, I knew that I had maybe died. Or I was suspended in that area. What the area they call? I was suspended in that area. How's that? No one, you know, I didn't talk about that. I didn't talk about that until afterwards. I didn't talk about it at the time it happened. I talked about it 30-some years later because that's what I felt. But it took me a while to connect the dots. A lot of times, you know, a person has a head injury, they don't know.
Interesting.
Bob, you understand that, don't you?
Yeah, sure. You know, when I read your book, it struck me that you didn't know, and it kind of unfolded as you got deeper and deeper into it. You started to learn different things about it and pursue a course of therapy there. And I think you went through some work in finding the right therapist for you and establishing that, and started to really but it takes a long time, you know, and it's really a lifetime kind of thing there.
It's a lifetime battle. It's a lifetime battle.
But, you know, the other thing that it's kind of stimulating too, that you know, at least you know that you're in there, and you didn't give up or fall into, just drugging yourself into a stupor or something like that. Although you had some of those issues, but you really kept working at it and stuff, and it's really admirable, that you did that. Do you have any right now? Do you have any kind of relations with baseball that you could keep up with?
I really, I go to the Padre games when they invite me down often during the course of the season. I have built a relationship with with Randy Jones, of course, and he does, he's responsible for the alumni events down there in San Diego. But I'm not really as close to baseball because for so many years I was fighting a battle that was outside of baseball, and it was more important than baseball. Much more important than baseball.
I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is our convention program from our San Diego convention, which was a couple of years ago. And there's an article about you in it. I don't know if you've ever seen this or not, but it talks about the part of the Padres' golden era, Rupp's troops, and you're the first person in this part of this article. And I'll send this to you if you haven't seen it, if you want it.
I have not seen it.
Okay. When we go offline, just give me your mailing address. I'll send you this.
You got it.
Ruppert, it's a pleasure to meet you, if only on
Hold
Zoom.
on, what kind of hat you got on, man?
That's a Detroit Stars hat from the Negro Leagues back in the 20s through the 50s, I think. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've collected some Negro League stuff over the years, over the past 30 years. But thanks for asking. Yeah, in the bright orange and white. This will make us all feel old, but you became my son's favorite Mariners player back in the late 70s. He belonged to the Junior Mariners Club, and I think it cost like $10 for 6 game tickets for 2 adults and the 1 kid, and he got the wristbands and everything, and he just took an immediate liking to you over in center field. We used to sit in the left field bleachers there in the Kingdome when you played for Seattle back in the early 70s. But anyway, he just, and I told him that I was going to be in this meeting. I've only been a member of SABR for 3-4 months now. And he says, oh yeah, well, tell him that, he was my favorite player. So when I was talking to him the other day, but I had a question about your brain injury, and I'm curious to kind of piggyback on what Bob was asking about or commenting on. When they started building all the new old ballparks in the late 80s and early 90s, places like Camden Yards and Jacobs Field, and eventually here in Washington, Safeco. But did they ever consult you, or did they ever construct and put more padding on the outfield walls, or any of that after your injury, and say after Ken Griffey Jr., his injury into the center field wall here in the Kingdome, or did they ever consult you on any of that, or did they ever construct the outfield walls differently years later?
From what I understand, that most of the walls are padded in Major League Baseball except for Wrigley Field. I think every ballpark in Major League Baseball is padded except for Wrigley.
Okay.
If you saw highlights of me, I challenged the fences because I tried to catch every ball that was hit. I tried to catch every ball that didn't leave the ballpark. That was my goal. If it don't leave the ballpark, I'm gonna try to catch it. And I made a lot of great plays. It ended up costing me, but that's okay. I got hurt doing what I like doing, what I love doing. you play a sport and there's a certain risk that comes with it. And if you're not willing to take the risk that comes with the sport, you shouldn't play it, because people come to the ballpark and they want to see you play. You watch the games now, and all these guys die for everything. They always, all I want to be on Sports Center, and they die for everything. And I look at the game, I said, all he got to do is take 2 more steps and he can run right through that ball. Or he can take 1 more step and run right through that ball. But they want to dive. We took pride in I watched Paul Blair play, and Paul Blair was one of the best I've ever seen. And I said, hey, I want to play center field like this guy. And Paul, I never seen Paul dive for balls, because he got good jumps. You watch these guys nowadays, they don't get good jumps, and then somebody say, well, he got a good jump. Well, if he got a good jump, why do he have to dive? Okay.
Right.
So guys go back, and they don't go back to the wall and wait for the ball. They kind of cruise into the wall. See, I used to go back to the wall. If I had time, I'd go back to the wall and put my back to the wall and catch the ball.
So I'm assuming, like in an older stadium, like the Oakland Coliseum, where you were injured, I'm assuming they got more padding there now than they did when I used to go to games when I was stationed down there in the Bay Area in the late 80s, or when you were injured in the early 80s. They would have more padding there now than they did back when you had your brain injury, right?
Yes. And the thing about that, I'm not sure. A couple of people tell me that the reason I hurt myself is because I slipped. Okay, I slipped and I lost my balance. I played in Yankee Stadium that year. Yankee Stadium is like 430 feet to left center field. So I had room galore. But when I went to Oakland, it's only like 385.
Right.
So, I got there in a hurry. I broke my shoulder too. I broke my clavicle, and I had the head injury. I woke up in the hospital 12 hours later. Of course, I didn't know what happened. I thought I was out. And people tell me, well, no, you were talking. Well, I don't recollect. The only thing I recollect is I woke up in the hospital. I said, my shoulder is broke and my head is killing me. Those are the first 2 things I remember saying. My shoulder is broke and my head is killing me.
Well, thanks for all that you do, for other people who suffer from the same thing.
Got a new gentleman here.
Hi, this is Josh in Eugene, Oregon. And first of all, I want to thank you for being part of our group this evening. And Bob, thank you for putting this together. I have to just say, I have the book, I've read it. I recommend anyone who hasn't read it yet, you got to get it and read it. Mr. Jones, you had said how you were honest in it, and good, bad, and ugly, and great. It was really raw too. It was really like as if we were talking to you and hearing you tell the stories. And so I really appreciate the honesty there. My question, I should preface this by saying I grew up in New York. I was a Mets fan, so forgive me for that, but I was 8 years old.
At least you were a fan.
I was 8 years old when you were in the Yankees, and you were one of my favorite
players. Can I interrupt you right quick?
Yeah.
I got a thought, and my thoughts, they don't stay too long.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate what you said about my book, because that was the intention that I wanted. And I explained to the guy who was working with me, Ryan Dempsey, my co-author. So look here, Ryan, I want this book to sound like me writing. I don't want this book to sound like you writing or someone else writing. I want people to understand that this is me writing this story. And Ryan made me write this story 3 times. Okay, when you first got it, he went through it. It's okay. Re-edit it, write it again. We did it. He made some changes. He's okay. Let's go through it. Do it again. We did it again. But each time we did it, it was improvement. It was a better product, and the pieces kind of fit better together. And the third time was a charm. So what you said right there really makes me feel good because we worked hard to achieve that. That was my most important, that's the most important thing I wanted this book to be. And everybody who's read it, a lot of people who read it and who know me say, it sounds like you talking, man. It's me talking. Okay, now go ahead, ask me the question.
Sure. So I was going to say you were still one of my favorite players, even if you weren't a Met, because you played the game the way you were talking about. You just played it for real. But what you just said, though, about what I said about your book actually leads to my question, which is, I maybe even asked this before, but who did you write this for? And I mean that because in reading through it, I could see that you wrote it for baseball fans, for people to understand what's happened in the last 40 years with traumatic brain injury, but also I think for yourself. You've kind of talked about the person you are because of the book you wrote. And I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Who did I write this book for? Good question. First of all, I wrote this book with pencil and paper. I didn't use a computer or a typewriter. I wrote it with pencil and paper. When I started out writing it, I guess I wanted to tell the world, you know, that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't, you know, this is what really happened to me, and this is why I had the behavior I had. But the funny thing happened is I was writing it, that became immaterial. It started opening up things inside of me that has been locked. I opened up doors that I never, you know, and went into rooms that I hadn't went into. And it was emotional. And there were times when I would bag back and I took 4, 5, 6 months not writing. My wife would get mad at me. When are you gonna write again? I don't know, you know, but it opened up a lot of doors inside of me. And it helped me heal some more because I dealt with a lot of regret and I dealt with a lot of guilt. You know, I always thought I felt I could have been a better ball player than what I really was. But after finding out what really happened to me, I think about it and I said, you know, you were pretty good to play 7 years in the condition that you were in. So that made me feel better, of course, because now, you know, I didn't cheat myself. I may have gotten out more than what I should have. Because when you deal with an injury of that nature, you know your focus and your concentration comes and goes. It's not there 24/7. There are days when I was brilliant and there were days when I was an idiot. You know, not just in baseball, but in life. And I had a lot of days like that. And you know, the inability to can't shut your mind down when your mind is racing 24/7. The thoughts are going in and out. Bobby, has somebody told you about that kind of experience they had?
Oh yeah, you know,
when they got the racing thoughts.
Yeah, you know, they. I mean, in times of stress, our brains are in competition with themselves between the amygdala, which is the reptilian part of their brain that just reacts, and the cerebral cortex, which is the more intellectual part there. And the way that we deal with that in athletics is by training, so that you can train to kind of keep your cool and keep your head about stuff when your brain is telling you. And you can only do it for so long, but to keep from panicking. That's why we have a fire drill in schools and things like that. We train to deal with that stress.
Boy, you are intellectual, aren't you?
I am not medically qualified to give out this information.
The prefrontal cortex too is important too, because basically, you know, it's where the inhibitions lie, and we lose our, you know, and when you lose your inhibitions, you're open for anything. Okay, when your inhibitions are not working properly, and you really push the envelope. You know what I mean by that, don't you?
Yeah.
With your behavior. The gentleman who read the book, he know I pushed the envelope a few times, but that's because, you know, my brain wasn't working properly. But I didn't know this. And so writing the book, and going through all the information that I accumulated, I realized that I wasn't alone. And my original title of the book was going to be called "I Am Not Alone." And then as I thought about it, and my wife had came up with the phrase "never give up." Never give up is more appropriate, because basically there are times when you feel like you want to give up. There are times when you feel like you just can't go on, but you just got to keep going. And I say to people all the time, I said, if you don't have problems or you don't have issues, then you're dead. Because as long as you live on this planet, as long as you are alive, you will have problems and you will have issues. It just comes with this world. So if you don't want to have problems, you don't want to have issues, then it means you're dead. Or you want to be dead. But when you have problems, when you have issues, you got to solve them, you have to go through them, you have to deal with them. Then you got something else that comes up. So there's going to be a never-ending succession of issues. All you gentlemen out there, I see 4 of you, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're lucky.
Ruppert, I really love the book. I was amazed by the honesty that you put into it. A couple of things that kind of stuck with me: the meeting that you had by chance with Nolan Ryan in the airport, where he asked if you were doing okay. And then I think it was it Bruce Bochy who kind of said, "I've heard a lot of Ruppert Jones stories."
Bud Black.
But okay. But I'm just kind of curious, since a lot of this has come out, have you gotten a little bit different reaction either from former teammates, opponents, now that they kind of realize what you're
doing?
No,
I have not. No, I have not. I guess a lot of them haven't read it. And then a lot of people could, a lot of people, you gotta understand, some people are what's the word I'm looking for? They think that someone's making an excuse. Okay? They think of someone making an excuse. So consequently, they say, "Oh, they just making an excuse for bad behavior." Well, did I come off like I was looking for making an excuse in that book?
Not at all.
I took responsibility. I've taken responsibility since I was a little kid. I'm 66 now, and I ever since I was a little kid, I've always taken responsibility. I said it in the book, didn't I say? I said if I did something wrong, I paid the price for it. I've always taken if I was wrong, I took whatever punishment that came with my wrong act. I didn't blame anyone else.
There's a difference.
Huh?
There's a difference between making an excuse and forgiving yourself for the,
yes, it is.
for the stuff you've done there.
Yes,
and
it is.
That's what you need to forgive yourself. And saying, like you said, I may not be perfect, but I'm still working on it.
Okay, now let's get down to the point. Then you Mr. Intellect. Forgiving oneself is very difficult. For me, it's been very difficult. Okay. Now I'm being honest with myself. Can all you gentlemen say the same thing, that you are, that you forgive yourself and honestly say you forgive yourself? Because that is a very important part of growth. That's a very important part of being a better person and a better man. To understand that we all have problems. We all have issues. It's how we deal with them. It's how we deal with them. We make mistakes, and we got to forgive ourselves for those mistakes, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes. I hit 250. I made 750 outs and 1,000 at bats. Think about that.
I made 750 outs and 1,000 at bats. I played 11 years.
Hey, you guys, Ruppert has a lifetime OBS plus of 106. It's still better than average, even throughout.
What is that? What is that number? What is that?
On base plus slugging, normed to the league average. The league average is expressed as 100. So your lifetime of your whole life, your baseball thing is 106. So it's a 6% better than the league average for the times that you play.
And you guys got numbers nowadays. I don't know. You guys got too many numbers, man.
Well, you should take that as a compliment. That's there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. There's plenty of players that are around that would be happy to have that statistic there, and including all the guys here in this room on this chat thing here. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but again, in order to have the goods, you got a lot of bad. You know?
In here, our paths crossed about 50 years ago at James Kinney Park in Berkeley.
James Kinney?
James Kinney Park.
What you know about James Kinney Park?
Well, I was 2 years ahead of you in school, but we played against each other in Colt League. And I was playing for Sergeant's Insurance. You hit a grand slam that actually broke up the team because you were ahead 10-0, and under the mercy rule, that ended the game, and a lot of the players were upset and never came back. So they put me on your team. I was a teammate of yours for one game with Virginia Chevrolet. And I don't remember anything in particular about that game, but I wasn't going to get much chance to play because they already had too many players, so I went and played another league that year. But what I remember in particular about that ball, you remember James Kinney Park had a very high left field fence.
Right field fence.
Left field too, because
Yeah, right field. Yeah, I was looking at left field.
Well, this was, I think it was off Francis Clay. You hit the home run to your opposite field, clear over the fence, hit the house across the street, and it was a grand slam. So I think probably the only words we ever said was, well, you passed me, I'm playing first base. And I don't even remember what we said. I just remember we said something. And you went on around the bases. You were a pretty happy guy. You were about 15, I think, at the time. And I was pretty impressed because that was a pretty long shot to your opposite field.
I hit a lot of home runs to the opposite field. You know how I learned that? When I first came to California, when they played baseball, they just, when you didn't have enough players, they just closed right field. So right field was closed. So I had to hit the ball to left field. Okay, so I developed that habit when I came to Berkeley, hitting the ball to left field because right field was closed. Because most of the guys were right-handed hitters, so they said, no, right field is closed. So us left-handers had hit the ball to left field. I hit a lot of home runs in left field in the big leagues too.
Well, I was aware of that. You used the whole field.
What's your name?
Merritt Clifton.
Merritt Clifton. James Kinney Park.
Yeah, you were in the same grade as my brother Ted.
Okay. Do you know that James Kinney Park was a predominantly black neighborhood down there at that particular time? I go down there, and it's more white folks down there than black folks.
Well, Berkeley has changed a lot since then, but that's the major change. The end of the redlining. It used to be
San Pablo.
Yeah.
Everything below San Pablo.
Yeah, that's right. So the end of that, and actually the whole town went upscale. The whole town's gentrified now. But
that's that new word. What did that word mean? That's a new word that they used on me when I was in the Bay Area.
Oh, that means that neighborhood's gone upscale. It's rich people living in places poor people used to live. They got to live 100 miles away and commute if they could find something out that far.
Oh golly, I tell you what, I don't go there that I don't go to the Bay Area that often.
I haven't been there in 6, 7 years either.
Did you play sand lot ball?
Oh man, I played sandlot. I played all kind of lot ball. That's how we played. We get Yeah. together and we play ball. You know, it's not like, you know, they got travel leagues now. We didn't have travel leagues. You had summer league and that was it. So we played summer league.
Was off right field. We did that a lot. And like you say, left-handed hitters, they had to learn how to hit to the opposite field or they were out of luck.
Yeah. Did you ever see Claudel play?
Oh, heck yeah. I played against Claudel in Colt League, same as you. I don't, I remember Claudel because I'd see him in the halls at school sometimes. He was friends with my brother.
Claudel Washington?
Claudel Washington, yeah. And I did see him play in Colt League, played against my team, but I don't have any particular memories of Claudel playing ball. I do have a memory of that.
Claudel played in Pony League, and that was the last time he played. He played Pony League because I played against him in Pony League. Claudel was probably the best baseball player I've ever seen. I tell people that, you know, Claudel Washington. I played against him when I was 13. It was 13 and 14. We played Pony League. Claudel didn't play baseball after 14 years old. When he was 17, we had a Connie Mack team. We only had about 8, 9, 10 players. So we went to Claudel and asked him to play. He hadn't played in 3 years. He said, okay, I'll play with you guys. Because we knew he could play, but he hadn't played in 3 years. He came out and he played a month on the Connie Mack team and he signed a contract with the Oakland A's after a month. He went to Coos Bay, Oregon and ate it up. He went to the Midwest League the next year and ate it up. He went to Berlin, he went to the Southern League. He played 2 months and they took him to the big leagues. So Claudel Washington had played baseball for 2.5 years and he was in the big leagues at age 19 after being out of baseball for 3 years. I mean, he went to the minor leagues and he's in baseball. He's in the big leagues in 2.5 years later.
2 guys who were the best players in my grade were Steve Odom, who went on to play pro football, and Glenn Burke, who of course became the Gay Dodger. I knew both of those guys fairly well. In fact, we were both in the same metal shop class at one point.
I tell people today, Glenn Burke is the best athlete I've ever seen. You know, Glenn was like about 5'11", 6 foot at the most.
Yeah, and he jumped out over my head, and I'm 6'3".
He jumped on top of you, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And he was if steroids was in at that era, you would have swore he was on steroids because he was as solidly built as anybody you ever want to see. He was like 5'11", 6 foot, 210, 215, and he didn't have, I mean, he was like a rock. And he played basketball. He was a great basketball player, and he's a great baseball player. But he was just a great athlete. He's the best athlete I've ever seen. I had the pleasure of seeing, in both of them.
I'll tell you a story about Glenn Burke. The last time I saw him was just before he signed with the Dodgers. I was playing first base in a game he was playing shortstop. He came over to me and he said, see this guy in the stands, a guy named Ben White. I think he's a narc. Can you go over and see what you can find out from him? I went over and I talked to the guy, and it turned out years later, I remembered it. He said a couple things. One thing he said in particular, I never heard anybody else say before, was that baseball was a fascist game. I thought it was kind of weird. Why is he watching the game? Years later, I'm an investigative reporter by trade. That's what I've spent the last 19 years doing. I crossed the guy's path again. He was a narc, and not only was he a narc, he was also spying on environmental organizations and the American Indian movement. He's deceased now, but he made his career doing that. But it was Glenn Burke that pointed him out to me.
I wonder how Glenn knew that.
I don't know. I have no idea how he knew, but he was right.
How long you two been together?
Me and my wife, Beth, here.
Yeah.
We met and married in 2014. We've been working together ever since.
We just,
Okay, 2014.
Yeah,
You got super lucky then, huh?
I did. She's my batting practice pitcher too.
I'm the pitcher.
Ma'am, if you found somebody at 2014, that means he was, but that's what, 7 years ago?
We
You
just
found
passed
somebody, and you found somebody, how old are you now? You about 66, 67?
about turned 68.
Okay, so you found her when you was in your 60s. It's hard to find good people when you're in your 60s, man.
I know. I've been single for 8 years. But I did get lucky. You're right about that.
You got lucky. I see all over her face. She's happy. And you happy, you got your arm all around her, you happy too, huh?
Good things came out of Berkeley, apparently. I'm from Miami Beach.
You're from Miami Beach. Did he go to Miami to meet you, or you went to Berkeley to meet him?
Actually, we met at Daytona Beach at a conference. She was a cop in Miami Beach.
Right, I was a Miami Beach police officer.
Oh, she kicked your butt, won't she?
Don't hold it against me.
Yeah, I'm saying she'll kick it, you kick his butt, won't you?
I was a cop anyway. I was too nice.
Oh, God. Where you guys live now?
We're at a little place called Green Bank on Whidbey Island in Puget Sound. You could barely even find it on the map because it's like 150 people.
You're on one of those islands?
Yeah, one of the larger islands. It used to be called Snake Island because it's long and skinny. It runs up along basically from just north of Seattle all the way up to just off of Bellingham.
I had a client that they was a security guard company, and they were on one of the islands. I forgot which island it was, but I went up there to talk to the employees, explain, and I did health insurance. So I went to explain the benefits, and I kept looking at all these little these little things on the ground that's coming out of the ground, and we riding around the island. I'm saying, what's in those little things? He said, oh, this is where the ships come to drop the nuclear weapons off. That's what you mean? He said, yeah, we got nothing but nuclear weapons here. I said, how come you didn't tell me that before I came?
Oh, just behind us, about a half a mile behind us, is Lake Hancock. Used to be a Navy practice bombing range.
Oh.
They were just exploding munitions out there last Sunday. They found them been left over for donkey's years, since the 60s or something.
Yeah, you guys up there, you guys got a lot of military up there.
Hey, I
Hey,
don't know
Bob,
how. I
Bob,
don't
are
know
you
how-
listening to all this? Are you
Oh,
listening to
yeah.
all this?
I'm taking it all in. Yeah. I don't know how much time we have left, but I'll keep this going as long as we can. I have a question for you, Ruppert, and that is, if Rob Manfred calls you up tonight and says, hey, Ruppert, I just read your book, and I was wondering if you could consult with me a little, and maybe we could figure out some ways that we could help players, especially those that have injuries. What would you say?
Injury? What kind of injuries?
Well, head injuries or psychological distress, things like that.
My first response would be to make sure that they get a neurological evaluation.
Uh-huh.
You know what a neurological evaluation is, don't you?
Yeah.
That was the last piece of the puzzle. Was I did a neurological evaluation. Okay, and this was like a 5-6 hour test or exercise that I went through, and she told me things about myself that explains it. You know, my depth perception, my coordination was not as keen as it would be, and she could tell after after a full day of exercising, and she put a report together for me. So I would say make sure the players get a neurological evaluations, so you can see if there's any damage to the neural system.
cognitive. See, a lot of times we lose cognitive powers and we're not aware of it.
Yeah, I don't know how much they get now. I mean, you see people saying, well, do you know what day it is? Do you know who's the president?
Well,
okay,
cognitive
go
powers,
get 'em.
yeah, but cognitive powers are your eyes, your sight, your smell. I met a guy who had a head injury and lost his sense of smell. Can't smell nothing. Okay. Oh, like in my particular case, I have for a long time it felt like my head was going to explode. It seemed like I'd get so much build up inside my head that it felt like there was no room left. All kind of things. Your sight. You got your sight. The brain is the computer, and it controls so many different parts of your body. So you might not be able to tell per se without a evaluation test.
It's a good idea.
Ruppert, in your book, you talk about having played in various settings. You played in Japan, you played in Venezuela, you played in instructional leagues and in some rural minor league towns. Can you talk a little bit about what it was in that time playing as a Black man in those different areas and what that was like for you?
I've been a Black man for 66 years, all my life. Everywhere I go, I'm a Black man. So, it was a necessary thing for me to do to get where I want to go. So if they sent me to Appleton, Wisconsin, I'm going to Appleton, Wisconsin because I want to get my goal. I want to reach my goal, big leagues. So there was nothing that was going to stop me. I was somewhat prepared because, like I said, I'm from Tyler, Texas. I moved to California, and then I started traveling. I was actually prepared for what I experienced with my brain injury too, because I've always been the kind of person who just keep fighting. I get what I got today, and if it ain't enough, it's not enough, but I'll come back tomorrow and start all over again. Okay? Sometimes people don't understand. So you just give all you got today. It might not be enough. Just come back tomorrow. Start all over again. We're gonna, in this world, we're gonna, even Michael Jordan. I got a Michael Jordan. I didn't put it in the book. I played golf with Michael Jordan. I was playing against him. He had a 2.5, 3 foot putt. And he looked at me and he said, "You're not gonna give me this putt?" I said, "No, Mike, I'm not giving you that putt." He said, "You gonna make me putt this?" I said, "Yeah, Mike, I'm gonna make you putt that." I said, "Michael, I saw you play baseball. I saw you play basketball. You made 1 out of 2 shots. I got a 1 out of 2 chance that you missed this putt." Well, Michael knocks the putt in. He sinks the putt. He said, "God dang it, you was the only one watching television. Everybody thought I made all my shots." But yeah, I had a 1 out of 2 chance that he missed it. But if I gave it to him, he wasn't gonna miss it. And the guys now, he's the guy that made Michael Jordan put a 3-footer. Yes, I did.
You have a destination where you were playing that you had the most fun, a team that you recall as being the most fun you had playing the game of baseball professionally?
Oh, without a doubt. 1984, the Detroit Tigers. I tell people to this day, that's the best team. We were warriors. It was like each game was a war. And if you wasn't prepared to come to war that night, you could have a hard time beating us. You just couldn't come out there and play. And we had good synergy as a team. We had great synergy. I mean, fantastic. Everybody knew their roles. Sparky had everybody dialed in as far as their roles, and everybody knew when Sparky was going to use you and what situation he was going to use you in. And there was no jealousy, no envy. We just wanted to win baseball games. And 2 years ago, 2019, we had the 35th anniversary. And we were in the hotel in a conference room, nice little conference room. And we had the team together, the guys who were still alive, the guys who were still around. And it was like the synergy was still there. And Kurt Gibson, great teammate. You know, they wanted Kurt to get up and speak, you know, and everything. Kurt grabbed the mic and he went from table to table and he let every player talk. And every player gave their own outlook or their own perspective on the team, themselves, and everything else. And it was like, wow, this was like deja vu. And my wife, you know, she wasn't a part of my life then. And she was saying how this is fantastic. And then a couple of players told my wife, it said, you know, your husband came in our team at the right time. He said, we might not be able to make it without him. He got us over the hump. He was very important to our success that year. Man, and she, you know, and for her to hear that about me, you know, was like gold. You know, and more than one player told her, not just one player, but 4 or 5 players told her. Same thing. And then one player told her, he said, your husband was a great ball player. He came to play every night. And that was probably the best, that was the crowning blow. That was the crowning on my book. That moment there. So when you said the most fun I had, 1984, we won the World Series. Don't get any better than that. And you know what? Once you win, they can't take it from you. They can't take it from you. They still invite us down there every 5 years for them anniversaries.
Thank you.
This is Josh again in Eugene, Oregon. I just want to say that's towards the end of your book, that story, and the way you told it in the book, the way you painted that story in the book, and the way you just said it now is so perfect. I just want to compliment on that. And not to give too much away from the book, because I want everyone here to read it, right? But you say one word, one thing I really liked about it was when you talked about the number 22 in the book. And if you could just tell a little bit about why that number is meaningful to you, I think that's a real sweet point too.
Okay, number 22. I wore number 22 in New York, and I wore it in San Diego for a year. I didn't wear it after that though. I only wore it 2 years. I met my wife June 22nd. We had our first date on July 22nd. We bought our first house and we moved into our first house August 22nd. So that number sticks out. It sticks out. When I met my wife, we met June 22nd. We talked on the telephone for a month, and we had our first date on July 22nd. That was our first date. First time we seen each other since we met each other on the 22nd of June. We talked on the phone all the time though. And she became she got to know me. I got to tell her things about me, and we became good friends. She's my best friend, without a doubt. I'm gonna tell you guys one story in the book, okay? You want to hear one? Do you want to hear one of the stories in the book?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I met my wife. At that particular time in my life, I wasn't telling people I was a baseball player. I never tell people I'm a baseball player. It's not my line. I'm Ruppert Jones. I used to play baseball. I met my wife. We talked. I never told her what I did. And we talked. One day, we went to the mall. And I said, I want to show you something. I went to the mall. I said, I want to show you something. So we go into the mall. And we went to the card store where they sell, memorabilia and things of that nature. I said, do you have any Ruppert Jones cards? He said, no. I said, what you mean? You don't have any Ruppert Jones cards? You got to have Ruppert Jones cards. He said, no, we don't have any. I said, why not? He pointed to my wife and said, because she bought them all. she had found out I was a baseball player, and she went in and bought all my cards up. I didn't know that. Bob, you look surprised.
Oh, that's a great story.
True story. What's the gentleman's name? He read the book. He know it. What's the other guy? What's the guy's name? The one
Josh. That's
Josh.
Josh.
Josh. He knows it. He knows it. It's in the story. It's in the book.
It's a great, and like I said, what you're giving us today is so much. There's so much more of that in the book. It's a real treasure to hear you talk it through. In addition to having read it, so I have to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for reading it. I hope you recommend it to other people. I could use the publicity and the advertisement. Any more questions?
Hi, Ruppert. I'm an old
Yeah,
Yankee
new
fan
guy.
from way back, and I remember when you first came up, and I was so disappointed when they let you go in the expansion draft, and I'm really glad that you got to get that ring in Detroit. Of course, I was disappointed you couldn't get one in New York, but anyway, I was wondering if you could talk about any mentors that you had either in the minors or the majors who helped you mature as a big leaguer and maybe be a better player, or whatever your thoughts are on it.
Well, you got to read the book then, because I mentioned that in the book. And Josh knows that, huh, Josh? Where's Josh at? Yeah, you got to read the book. It's in the book. I mentioned several individuals who were very instrumental in my development. As a matter of fact, I gave a lot of people credit for some of my development. When I look back on my life, I can't take credit for it all. As a matter of fact, I call a lot of people. I call a lot of people in my life, I call them angels. I believe in angels. Because as I look back on my life, the people who were there for me in some very, very crucial times in my life helped me through situations. And so consequently, they were angels. As a matter of fact, ex-teammate of mine, I called him. I got in contact with him, and I mentioned him that I talked about him and his wife in the book, and how they were very, very, they were very important to me at one time. So there was a lot of people in the book that I really was grateful to. So you got to read the book to find out who they are. So if you haven't bought it yet, you got to go out and get it.
Well, it's too bad we can't meet in person and have you autograph it for us.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys, if you guys get together, maybe we can work something out.
Well, that would be nice. It's nice that we have a chance to talk this way, because we've been separate for over a year.
Hold on, I got Paul DeFonso, I got Merritt Clifton, I got Tip Oneself. Is that Oneself?
Yeah,
Tip,
Oneself, yeah.
Oneself. I got Bob, and then I got Josh. You guys get your books together, put your names on it, put your name on it so I can see it, and you can send them to me, and I will sign them for you. So that's what, 5 books?
at least.
I'll give you my PO box.
Okay.
I'm only doing this because you guys are very good to me tonight.
Well,
Don't tell other people. They won't get the same treatment you guys getting. Okay?
Yeah. Well, if there's no more questions here,
Hold up. You guys got a pen? Pencils?
Yeah, I got a pen. I can post it for people.
Okay. You can reach me at Post Office Box 27106, San Diego, California. 92198.
Got it. Okay. I'll post it for people.
No. I said 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 people I see. How many? Is there other people out there? Is there other people out there?
Yeah, there are like 18 to 20 people on this meeting.
There's
Wow.
18.
Wow. Okay, if you guys buy 18 books, then yeah, I'll sign all 18 of them. If you guys send me 18 books, I will sign all 18 of them, because you know what? That's what that's what I'm here for. If you bought my book and you read it, you got to read the book though. If you don't read it, I can't sign it. You hear that, Tip? Tip, you hear that?
Loud and clear, Rupert.
Okay. Paul, you hear that, Paul?
Sir, I'll get right on that.
And who's this gentleman here? We got a new face here.
Who's
you?
Who's new? Me?
I hadn't seen you, so you new to me.
I've been here.
What's your
I
name?
don't have the book, but I'm buying it.
Okay, good.
I was a latecomer because we had a little fire in our neighborhood. We almost had to evacuate.
Where you live?
In Nevada City,
okay.
in California, in the Sierra Nevadas.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, I did have a question though, because I came a little late. But what was it about the? What was it about the '84 Tigers that had that chemistry that you talked about? What's the secret to that? Why can't they bottle that and have that be part of every team? What's the secret to that?
Well, only one team wins the World Series every year. You don't have 2 World Series champions.
That's right.
So the teams that win the World Series, they got it bottled for that year. That's why it's hard to be a champion, because you got, a lot of things have to go right for you. Okay, a lot of things have to go right. You have to be lucky.
Yeah.
You got to be good too, but you got to be lucky.
Right.
You can't be losing Jack Morris.
Right.
We lose Jack Morris, we can't win games.
Right.
We're not gonna win as many games. If Willie Hernandez is out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we might lose games in the 8th and 9th innings because he's not there.
Right.
Okay.
I got it.
So you look at the teams that win, a lot of things go right.
Right. Well, that was the case with my Nationals.
Yes, sir. You guys wild cards. You got in the wild cards and you just kept going.
Yeah. No, that was.
But you had Scherzer, you had Strasburg, and you had was it Corbin there too? Yeah,
Corbin, right.
You had horses. You pitching horses. You're not throwing Clydesdale. You're throwing thoroughbreds out there.
Right. And they beat
not many
2
teams have thoroughbreds
teams too. Yeah, that's right.
Not many teams have thoroughbreds. You look at when you get to the playoffs. Look at the team who win. They got thoroughbreds. They got thoroughbreds on the mound.
Right. All right.
Okay, Daryl. So you got the Grimsby. Daryl Grimsby. Okay.
I was one of the fans in San Diego cheering you on when you were I lived in San Diego when you were there.
Good.
Roop.
They did the same thing in Seattle. Daryl.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh, Bob, I got 19 books, Bob.
I don't know. Right now, let me see. There's 17 people on right now. Some people have come and gone, I think, but there's 17 people still booked in here. So, and those that wanted to be here but couldn't do it. I mean, I think Daryl, geez, the guy had a fire in his neighborhood. He still logs in here. He's got gumption.
He got his question answered.
Yeah, well,
he got his question answered.
Those that wanted to be here and miss it will regret it always.
You guys have a good storyteller.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, you guys, but you make sure if you guys send them individually, you make sure you kind of like specify who you are. So hey, I'm with SABR, and so I know the sign, because I don't necessarily do it for everybody, but I'll do it for you guys.
Okay.
My wife is gonna be mad at me, but I do it for you guys. I don't do it for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Got another new guy come in. Yeah, I like your haircut.
Thanks. It's easy to take care of.
Yeah, it is. What's your name?
Mark.
Mark, you got a Kansas City. Is that a Kansas City or what kind of hat is that? Is that a CA back there behind you?
Oh, right here. That's Kansas City Monarchs hat.
I thought that was Kansas City Monarchs.
Yeah.
You got Hank Aaron. You were
Yeah,
there.
here I got.
You got the Hank Aaron up there.
Yeah, over. Let's see. Which way am I going here?
Wrong way.
Well, wrong way. There
There
I
he
got
is.
Jackie Robinson and Hank Aaron up there.
That's an old Milwaukee Braves uniform.
Yep. I always liked that picture of him. Big 44 on the back.
He could hit.
Oh yeah.
You know what Koufax called him, don't you?
I think I've heard before, but refresh my memory.
Bad Henry.
There you go. Yep.
If Koufax called you Bad Henry, what did that tell you?
You're a bad man. Thanks for the time tonight.
Did you hear it? Did you hear everything?
Oh yeah. I think I only popped up because I started talking or I started laughing. That's the only reason I popped up, I think. But I've been on here the whole time.
Actually, you guys, this is recorded. You can go onto the SABR virtual meeting site and see the whole thing again. And some people do that anytime you want.
Well, you should share it with the other SABR.
Well, you know, I was thinking that and I kind of regret not kind of pushing this more to the San Diego people, but you could do this to the San Diego chapter and they would probably lap it up too. They would probably really enjoy it.
You guys were fantastic, man. You guys was fantastic, man. I really appreciate it. And Merritt took me home. He took me back to Berkeley.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That was cool. That was really cool.
They'd probably lap it up at the Lefty O'Doul chapter down in the Bay Area too.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now that because you're from Berkeley, right, Rupert?
I'm from Berkeley.
Yeah. They'd probably love to have you as well.
Is anybody from Oakland? Is anybody from Oakland around there, around you guys, with you guys? Nobody from Oakland, right?
In there twice when I was in the Navy, but yeah.
Okay, well, people sometimes say, "Man, you from Oakland," and I make sure I tell them right away, "No, I'm not from Oakland. I'm from Berkeley." And Merritt know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not from Oakland. I'm from Berkeley.
Berkeley's reputation for the brains.
Oh my goodness. Any more questions?
Rupert, I thought I would try to take you back to Detroit for just a moment. I opened up my World Champions book, and I don't know how well you can see that, but there you are. It looks like they caught you in a home run swing, and there you are with the fellow outfielders.
I got that card.
Okay, do you happen to remember that shot? Was that a big hit for you, or would you not remember?
I don't remember what I had on yesterday.
Okay.
No, I don't remember that shot. There are certain things I remember, but I don't remember that shot.
It looks like it was a home game. Looks like you got your home whites on.
Hey, Paul, you're Paul, right?
Yes, sir.
You read the book, you'll hear some fascinating stories about some home runs I hit.
All right. Well,
I talk about some home runs I hit in the book.
That's what we call a teaser. I'm gonna have to order that tonight.
Oh.
Well, thanks so much for coming out with us tonight. It's really a pleasure to talk to you and hear you tell some tales.
Oh, they're not tales, they're the truth. I don't tell tales.
Well, I mean, just to hear about your experiences and everything that you've been through, and it really, as I said before, it really takes me back to the old days in New York, and and here you are. It's really a pleasure to have you with us.
I want to ask you guys a question. What do you like about today's baseball game?
Don't speak at one time.
Well,
Here's my thing. No matter how people try to mess the game up, it's indestructible. It is still the game of baseball. That's what I love about it. I mean, there's a lot I don't like, but overall, it's still the game. Plus, what I love about it is, I mean, it's life. It's a mirror into life. I mean, you just really see what, there's no illusions about what's going on. I mean, people have problems, there are difficulties. There's a lot of failure. I mean, if you're not used to losing, you can't hang with baseball. If you're not used to, so
life.
I love the game of baseball. They can't do anything to ruin it for me.
Yeah.
Well said, Daryl.
And let me
Yeah,
ask you a
well
question. How do you measure a Hall of Famer nowadays?
Yeah.
Whew, how long do you got?
Personally, I don't really care about the Hall of Fame because there's so many people in there that shouldn't be and people that should be that's not.
Yep.
And so I just like, to me, what I love about baseball is, minor leaguers who stay in the minors for like 10 years and come up and have 3 games. I mean, to me, that's what the Hall of Fame should be about.
That's never give up right there, ain't it?
It is. I mean, people like Lou Johnson, who had all them years in the minors. And then there's a guy just the other day who got called up. I think he had been in the minors like 10 years. That's the beauty of that game.
That's never give up, ain't it?
Yes.
Yep.
That's why I changed the name of my book. It's called Never Give Up. You guys still dream? Do you still have dreams that you want to attain, that you want to do? Don't give up on them. Huh?
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
Helen, how you doing?
Fine. I started a new career at age 75, which is what I am now. I'm now an author. So,
did you read my book?
No, I didn't even know about it. I'm in Canada, so I'll have to buy it.
You can get it. Amazon comes to Canada.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll get it through Amazon. But actually, I'm going to be in Seattle for the next week watching my beloved Mariners. So I'll have to buy it when I come home.
You know, Helen, I wrote this book and I really didn't even think about it. And when I started writing it, I kind of like read, and then people were saying how difficult it is to get it published. I had all the negatives, how tough it is. And I got it written. And then I found me a good writer. I got it written. I got a writer to help me write it, put it together.
Yeah.
Then I couldn't find somebody to publish it. Well, I found a lady to help me put it on Amazon. She knew how to put it on Amazon, put it together, format it, cover, and everything else. Yeah. And we put it on Amazon. And I'm glad I did.
Yep. There is nothing like seeing your book in print. It's a real ego thing. Now, I've got 3 books under my belt. I'm working on a 4th. So sometime I'll get around to researching baseball, I promise.
Well, I'm gonna have to get one of your books, Helen Edwards. Let me write that down.
Yeah, well, the last book that's on Amazon is the one that you see behind me in the picture. And that's about my father-in-law in the Royal Canadian Navy in between 1916 and 1929. And it's actually journals that he wrote that we found in his papers when he died. So I'm pretty proud of that. I just won an award for it from a Canadian Naval Review. So the book that will be coming out very soon follows up on that until he retires. So yeah, something, you're never too damn old. I guess I was 73 when I started writing, and now I've got 3 books. So and more to come. So
and see, that's everything. That's everything.
Is. And it's great for the ego.
I guess my ego is not that. Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
She's reminding me of something right here, Duchess Diaries. And she said how her father-in-law kept notes, right?
Yeah, well, when you were in the Navy, they went at 14. So they were required every day to write what had happened to them. Now, we
Yes.
don't have the really early ones, they've got lost, but from 1916 on, that would be his 3rd year in the Navy, and they're pretty detailed. So it's a real eye opener on, on what life was like. But it's not, well, and he loved baseball, so there is a baseball connection. He could talk to baseball, talk about it for hours to anybody. So, because he was a world-class athlete in his own right. So, yeah.
Where's your book available, Helen?
It is on Amazon. Yeah. I sell it from my house too, but that's a little difficult to get to right now. So, yeah, it is on Amazon. And there's a Kindle version and a paperback. So
Was some of that taken from like ship's logs? Official ship's
there's a
logs?
little bit from ship's logs, but he was so detailed in writing what he was doing that it's pretty comprehensive. The war in the Mediterranean, and it would scared the hell out of me to do some of the things he did. He was in a decoy ship. This is Canadian history. I don't know if the Americans had it, but they had ships called the Q ships, and they were decoys. So they were out in the middle of the Mediterranean, dressed in women's clothes or dressed as fishermen, and they were decoys. And if a submarine came up, the sides would go down, and then the guns would come out. But they were sitting ducks. They got paid a whole shilling extra, which is like 15 cents. But and that's a story that nobody knows. And they were named for what is now Cork in Ireland, but it used to be called Queenstown, and that's where the idea originated. So
interesting.
Yeah. So God, I wish I could talk to people about naval history. I would love it. Yeah.
Yeah, Ruppert, just getting back to what you were asking about, what we like about baseball, and there's a lot that's annoying about baseball right now. I mean, no collisions at home plate and everything, but
yeah,
and I realize I'm not making too many friends here because I'm a Yankee fan, but just seeing the Yankees playing as horribly as they were playing this year, giving up grand slams in the 9th inning and so many soul-crushing defeats. And now they're world beaters, because like you were saying, they didn't give up. And that's really something that keeps me interested in the game, to see my home team, my former home team, just not giving up and coming back and just being world beaters right now.
Well, Paul, if you look at baseball, who won the World Series? The Nationals won the World Series a couple years ago. They were a wild card team.
Yeah.
And people always ask me, well, who's going to win the World Series? I say I can tell you in September who will have a good chance, because the teams who in September who play playoff games every night.
Yeah.
The wild card teams play playoff games every night.
Yep.
The teams who are in first place and got the division wrapped up, there's no pressure on them in September. So all of a sudden they get in the game in October and it's got a little pressure.
Yeah.
The teams who play playoff games in September they've been playing playoff games for a month.
Yeah.
See, and you got to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
And if I got Jack Morris going that night, I got a real good chance to win. They don't make pitchers like Jack Morris anymore. Do they, Bob? You got all the statistics, but they make pitchers like Jack
Well,
Morris?
they don't make too many pitchers that would be able to let them stay in to pitch the 10th inning in Game 7 of the World Series. That's true. Although Spahny did it, Warren Spahn did it.
Hey, Tom Kelly couldn't have took Jack. Jack was not going to let Tom Kelly take him out the game.
Yeah.
Okay, Jack, it wasn't like, that's the only reason the Braves lost, because Smokes came out.
Yeah, well, what Tom Kelly said, though, after they talked him into leaving him in, he said, well, what the hell? It's just the game.
I got a man on the mound who want to be out there. Okay. If I bring somebody else in, he might not want to be out there. He might not be, he might not be ready for that moment. Jack Morris is ready for that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the whole key. You watch a game. Is the guy ready for that moment? Yeah, he did well during the regular season, but is he ready for that playoff moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you still in regular contact with Jack Morris, Ruppert, or?
No, I haven't. I saw Jack a couple years ago, but I'm not in contact with him. But I told Jack, I said, boy, if I had a game to pitch for my life, I'd give you the baseball. You can have it. I know I'm gonna get your best.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What you say?
We had a chapter meeting a couple of years ago here in Seattle, and one of our fellow members, I don't know if he's here tonight, was kind of picking on Jack as a Hall of Fame candidate. He had just made the Hall of Fame, and I was trying to speak in support of Jack, and basically his response was, well, he just had a lot of good players around him. I wish he was here tonight to hear you talk about Jack.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Jack Morris, you got to understand, good players feed off each other though.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the team you had in Seattle. You had three Hall of Famers. You got 3 Hall of Famers on that one team: Griffey, Rodriguez, and Johnson. Did you win anything?
Edgar.
You had 4. Did you win anything?
No.
No.
Huh? Don't answer at the same time.
Well, they beat the Yankees. They beat the Yankees there, and that's what exhausted them. That's just exhausted them. Okay.
Oh golly! But it's more than just having good players around you.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could jump in here, I became a pitcher and worked 282 innings in my top year. But what was expected of a pitcher back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, what Jack Morris learned to do is not what pitchers these days are taught to do. Pitchers in those days were taught to go the distance and to pace yourself so you had something left 7th, 8th, 9th inning, and not be always looking over your shoulder for the bullpen. Well, nowadays, the top pitchers in the league don't even work 200 innings. They're just throwing cross from the word go. There's no pacing anymore.
That's why I asked you guys. What's going to determine these guys going to the Hall of Fame?
That's a good
Pretty
question.
soon you're going to have people not going to the Hall of Fame because you can't give 5 inning pitchers Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
I
there'll be a
think
lot of
there's a
relief
lot of
pitchers going to the
prejudice
Hall of
when it
Fame.
comes to voting against Hall of Famers. And look what happened to our man Edgar. I mean, they made him sweat that out to the last ballot, in the 10th or 11th year, right?
Yeah, but Edgar and Harold Baines are in the Hall of Fame as designated hitters.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Those guys could hit, man. They got their numbers add up. I don't care.
And that was the prejudice against the DH. You're talking about it was just, that's been a rule for almost 50 years now.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who are here at your first meeting, welcome.
Yeah.
But if you want to open up a can of worms, if you want to start a discussion that can go all night there, come to a SABR meeting and start talking about who could be in the Hall of Fame, who's best, who's not there, and it'll be like the starting gun goes off there.
But that's good though.
Everyone will have an opinion. Okay.
That's good though.
Yeah.
That's what this country is made of. Everybody having an opinion and expressing their opinion and not afraid to express their opinion.
There'll be people you'll always be able to do that. You can drink yourself under the table and people will still be, well, I think that.
Well, I'll give you my guy who I think should be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame.
Definitely agree.
Okay.
Yes, me too.
Totally right.
They all right. He gambled on baseball, whatever he did. Now they are they are publicizing gambling. They are welcoming gambling in baseball now. Even Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's too much hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Every single
what
game,
about-
how many strikeouts somebody's gonna get, whether somebody gets
Bet
a
on
home
anything.
run. I mean, it's like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're gonna
Yeah.
keep Pete out of Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that's. No.
Rupert, as long as we're on the subject of the Hall of Fame, I wonder if you could give us your thoughts on having played with Thurman Munson and having played against him.
I didn't play with Thurman, I played against him. I can give you a Thurman Munson story because I didn't put it in the book, Paul. If I had put it in the
Okay.
book, I wouldn't have gave it to you. Thurman Munson was a grouchy man. Okay? He was a grouchy man. He was gruff, he was grouchy, but he was a great ball player. So I'd come to home plate, and he'd smile, he'd talk to me, and we would, okay. So one day I come to the plate and I speak to Thurman, and Thurman don't speak to me. I said, God damn it, Thurman, if you're gonna speak to me, you're gonna speak to me all the time or not at all. Make your mind up. He started laughing. He said, okay, I'll talk to you. And we had no problem after that. But I told him, you either gonna talk to me all the time or you're gonna shut up and not talk to me at all. So we always talked or bantered when I came to home plate.
Do you think he was Hall of Fame material?
If he'd have played a few more years, yes. You got to understand, he drove in 100 runs with 15 home runs.
Yeah.
Not many guys can drive in 100 runs and hit 15 home runs. You talking about guys hit 40, 30, 50 home runs driving 100 runs. He drove in with 15 home runs. He get them tough RBIs.
Yeah.
And he was really good in the postseason too.
He get those tough RBIs. How many guys, look at baseball now, how many guys get tough RBIs?
Yeah, not many.
Got a man on second base and 2 outs.
Yeah.
You got a man on third base, less than 2 outs. He'll hit a ground ball second base. He'll get that run in.
Yeah.
That's how you drive in 100 runs with 15 home runs.
Yeah.
Look at Bob. Bob, you look at the numbers?
No. I think that if you talk about, does everyone know what I'm saying when I say the 3 true outcomes?
Mhm.
What are they?
When they call these the 3 true outcomes because there's no fielding involved, and so it's pure pitcher and batter. It's either a walk, a strikeout, or a home run.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's what we miss about baseball is that rally and that team players and a multiple thing like that. And I think that baseball will want to try to get away from that somewhat there. But the other thing is that I would mention is that, look around here. Everybody's idea of when baseball was great, when baseball was in a golden age, is how baseball was played when you were about 12 years old.
20.
Yeah.
20. I
Okay.
saw
Okay.
Koufax pitches last regular season game. That was my big pride. That was my 20th birthday present to myself.
We remember.
I remember baseball really well then. Yeah.
Yeah, we remember a golden age when
How many pitches did Koufax throw?
I have no idea, but I idolized that guy. I had a picture of him on my wall.
These guys nowadays, they try to throw 3, 4 pitches. Koufax threw 2 pitches.
Yeah. Mhm.
Koufax threw 2 pitches. Fastball curve.
Yeah. And he got him out.
Fastball curve.
Yeah.
Koufax could tell you what he was throwing, you still couldn't hit him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
These guys nowadays, they try to throw 4 or 5 different pitches and they can't throw 1 pitch for a strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked up Thurman Munson stats. What you were saying, Rupert, about these 15 homers and 100 RBIs, yeah, 1975, 12 homers, 102 RBIs. The next year, 17 homers, 105 RBIs, and in 77, 18 homers, 100 RBIs.
Yeah.
That's production.
Yeah, great.
You got guys get hit 50 home runs, don't drive in 100 runs.
Yeah.
So, you know, but if he'd put a couple more years like that on the board, he would be a true, he would be a bona fide Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well,
Again, I ask you guys this question, you guys keep up, you don't want to say anything about it. The Bob Webster, okay, Bob, but I keep asking this question. How do you determine Hall of Famer now? What's going to be a Hall of Famer moving forward in the future?
Yeah.
Pitchers that throw 5 innings, 6 innings?
3.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. Jacob deGrom won a Cy Young a few years ago. He won 10 games.
Yeah.
He won 10 games, and they threw all them numbers up that you talked about, Bob, that don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
He won 10 games. Now, he had 2 guys on his team that won more games than he did. Wheeler won 14 that year, and I think Syndergaard won 12 or 14 games himself. And DeGrom won 10 games, and he won a Cy Young because he had those strikeouts and all this. Man, the name of the game is to win baseball games.
Yeah.
And winning baseball games ain't luck. It's luck nowadays, though, because if you throw 5 innings, 6 innings, you got to depend on 3 pitchers to finish the game for you.
Yeah. Do you ever?
Bob Gibson told me a story. Bob Gibson said, Red Shamedine, the score was 2-1. He was in the 8th inning. The first guy got on base. So Red Shamedine's come to the mound and said, Bob, that's it. I'm going to take you out. Bob said, are you going to bring somebody in better than me? And Red said, no. He said, well, get your ass back in the dugout. Because he couldn't afford for somebody to come in and lose his game. If he was going to lose that game, he was going to lose that game, not the guy that come in after him.
Yeah. Do you think we're ever going to see another 30-game winner like we used to see in the past?
Have you seen a guy? Have you seen anybody that got 30 decisions?
No.
In order to win 30 games, you got to get 30 decisions.
They don't do it that way anymore.
Right. You can't get 30 decisions.
Yeah.
How you gonna win 30 games?
Yeah, I know. Just see that's the golden age way back there with Denny McLean and those guys. So yeah.
A few years ago, Blake Snell had what did he have? The year he won the Cy Young, he had about 85% of his games he got a decision. 90% of the games he got a decision. That's important. How many guys go out there and don't get a decision?
Yeah.
Win or lost?
Yeah, most of them.
Well,
they scared to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started 31 games and 21-5.
Huh?
He started 31 games that year and he had 21 wins, 5 losses.
He got 26 decisions.
Yeah, out of 31 starts.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
When you look at the other guys, how many guys, some guys pitch 35 games and they get what, 20 decisions?
Or 10.
You know, how you, that's the whole thing. Go out there and get a decision, win or loss.
Yeah.
If you're scared to get a loss, you'll never get a win.
What they do now, the rosters have 12 or 14 pitchers, and in our day, they'd have 10. So you're cutting up the innings and the decisions among more guys, and your best guys aren't pitching like a quarter of the innings. Your best guys are pitching a tenth of the innings. You don't have your best guys out there like Jack Morris anymore. You've got your 11th or 12th guy on the staff is getting that share of the innings.
And I watch a game and they say, yeah, we're going to work the pitcher. Why would you work a guy who can't pitch? You want to jump on him soon. You want to jump on him right away. You don't want him to get no break.
Yeah.
Why would you work the pitcher on a guy who can't pitch?
Well,
Yeah, Nolan Ryan was different. If Nolan Ryan was on a 100 pitch count, well, we gonna tell everybody, take a pitch. Take two if you have to. We'll get him out of here by the fifth inning. But Nolan Ryan gonna be around. He gonna be around in the eighth inning. He gonna be around in the ninth inning.
Yeah.
Well, you were asking earlier, Ruppert, to compare the modern game with the old game, and let's assume a little bit of fantasy here. What if this was? What if Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax were 60 years younger, and they were at the prime of their career today? How would they do?
They couldn't pay them. Number one, they couldn't pay them.
Yeah.
They don't have enough money.
That's what I think too. But yeah.
Okay.
Anybody wants to chime in on that? What if those guys, or Warren Spahn, or Bud Kent Grant, or who I got the pleasure to watch all the time, having grown up, a few blocks away from the ballpark there. But yeah.
The problem is they probably wouldn't let them do what they were able to do in the 50s and 60s because of the way the game has changed, right? Exactly what we're talking about. How
that's kind of what I'm driving at. Would they let him pitch 9 innings? Like,
no.
Yeah.
No, never.
Bob Gibson might be a closer now.
Yeah.
of course not. But Koufax left the game at age 32. They would be trying to keep track of his pitches, and the medicine would help him stay in the game. And they would say, we're not talking about this season. We're talking about a Hall of Fame pitcher who can pitch for our franchise for 10 years. Okay? Don't forget
32 is pretty damn good. That's just, it's just you're going to break your arm sooner or later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? You can forget that. You got people who type on typewriter get carpal tunnel in their wrist.
True.
Yep.
Okay? Let's just be serious. So whatever you do consistently, you're gonna break it because you only got so many in it, but you like to see it. I would like to see the conversation of the manager who come out to try to take Bob Gibson out of the game. I would like to see that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? Think about that. Well, Bob, I told you, because Bob Gibson, back then they had 1-year contracts. 1-year contract. These guys got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year contracts. You got 1-year contract, man. You can't afford to be losing your 2-1 ball games.
Yeah.
Can't rest on your laurels.
No, you don't have any laurels.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a fact. I got another Jack Morris story for you. Sparky Anderson.
I just go buy one at the T-Mobile store. Why don't you do that tomorrow?
That's okay. Sparky Anderson. They told me this story about Sparky. Sparky used to go out to the mound and take Jack out of the game. And a lot of times Jack didn't want to come out. So you know how the manager sticks his hand out like this and put the ball? Jack would slam the ball into Sparky's hand to let him know, I don't want to come out this game. So after a little while, he started sending Roger Craig out. Roger, you go take him out. You go take him out, Roger. Because he knew Jack was gonna be mad. Okay, but he respects that. He might not like it, but he respects it, and that's because and he knows that's the way Jack is. But that's why he's great.
Yeah.
And see, Jack wouldn't slam the ball into Roger's hand. He just put it in there nicely. Because he knew Roger was doing the dirty work. Well, guys, I gave you guys a lot of time today.
Wow.
Thank you, Rupert.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I think we probably should come to a stopping point, actually.
Bob, I appreciate you putting this together, man. I've had a wonderful time.
The pleasure's been all ours, and we're all grateful. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
Now you guys go out and buy the book.
I bought it while we were on this call. I bought it on Amazon while we were on the call.
Okay, good. Excellent. I'll know tomorrow.
Fair enough. It's there. It might be at my house by tomorrow.
I tell you what, well, you got my P.O. box. If you got a question, mail it with your book.
Fair enough. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, Northwest
so much.
Saber, we have a social meeting scheduled for September. So
Awesome.
watch the thing there, and we'll get together, try to get together then. We're gonna try to meet in person in November, and who knows what's gonna happen, but we're gonna try.
Yeah.
Awesome.
it's
Thank
still
you,
hard
Bob.
to cross the border.
Okay, yeah, right, I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rupert. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
Good
Thanks,
night,
Bob.
everybody.
Welcome,
Bye, everybody.
everybody. Yeah, welcome,
Take care.
everybody.
All right.
Cheers.
take care.
Yeah, let's do it again soon. Okay,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna sign off here.
See you,
Okay.
Bob.